Hey, the little blue bar says we're live. Today is Sunday, the 30th of December, 2018. On the panel is our Patricia. Maybe Flat Earth Dude will join us if he's awake or not busy. And obviously, special guest and family, David, Indigo Channel, Sovereign. We're doing, this is teachings. This is being lessons to help you about interactions with the bailiffs, officers, agents. David.
Yes, we'll have a little bit of informal fun. Excuse me while I get to the safety. Yeah, a little bit of informal fun, and we'll take questions and see how we go, sister. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, cool. So you can see the chat room then.
No, I'll need to get another. I'll get another handset and do that.
I quite like the way you do it, though. But you make it look so easy, David. I know it isn't easy, and I know it's a lot of practice and learning. But you make it look so easy when you do it. And I'm thinking, if they came and knocked at my door, what was the third? Because you have a reaction, don't you?
Yes, there's a process, and we're going to do Giaramita versus Giaramita over Christmas on Indigo. So for those that are watching now and those that pick up this video, then yeah, I'll have the pleasure of introducing my mum to the subscribers and family, and explaining, yeah, a little bit about the knowledge and the pathway of how we get to this. But we make it, if I do make it look easy, I'll take that as a compliment. But it's not through knowing the statutory codes and all of the public law that makes it easy. The bit that makes it easy is the fact that man knows who he is, and when man knows whom he is, then the answers are all easy to get. But once you're confused, it's a lot harder to do.
I suppose it is in the first place, isn't it?
We've just mentioned a word, have we not, about etymology? Would you like to? That's how it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just, because obviously we were talking a little bit before we went live, and we were talking about Martin, Kenny and Josh, and, you know, you wanted like to have another hangout with them. And then someone wrote in the chat, you know, the messages, they put down breakdown therapist. And it's the rapist. Oh, my goodness, whoa. It's all in front of us, really.
Yeah, it's
a horrible word. Then therapist is. Then I don't like that word now.
Yeah, there was Santos told me there was a tribe of a continent of people, a bloodline lineage. You get the idea. Magans, or I can't say it 100%. I remember the Franciscan friars and certain elements, but I can't recall all of it because it's too much. But there were Magians or something like magicians, and you have like a clue with to help out the subscribers, and how I learned it with ADHD and dyslexia, being on the autistic spectrum. You'd think that would be a hindrance, but once you learn, or somebody with my afflictions learns the key to this language, then it just appears. You only need to learn a tiny section and find out the technique, the system, and the rest then starts to appear. And I don't mean just appear out of thin air, but when you look at words, magician, magistrate, you know, and the words, the beginning of the words, con, consent, contract, comply. And contract is when something of metal gets cold and it will shrink, or something shrinks due to you know, elemental pressures. But contract is also legal term for contracting. So therefore, it's also, to my mind, as a child, young boy, learning this language and the application of implied meaning, definition and spelling and all of it, no etymology, I couldn't get my head around words that meant two different things: tearing the paper and tear. And I was like, this is wrong. And I got told by the academic indoctrination, you know, school, that it's me that's wrong and I needed extra help. But now I can turn around and say, I call shizen on this, because now I can definitively help you understand, understand the legal side, the Anglo side, and the French and the Latin and the words like the rapist, therapist, and being born under contractions contains the word contract. So these words are not there by accident. And going back to when I was a child, young boy, studying this language and grammar and English and spelling, I was like, I did think several times, who made this up? Where did they get the ruling system from? Never mind your vowels and your consonants and your adjectives and your frontal adjectives and your pronouns and your verbs. I'm talking about the actual structure of it and who says, and silent letters. I'm like, why? It's just so wrong. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. And now as an adult, 40-year-old man, I think I'm an adult. I found a pathway that, with the help of others, and knowing that is the way to defend yourself. In essence, knowing who you are and what's put before you to how to maybe not react, but to respond to it. And a respond is better, than a reaction. And how you do that with what instruments and the language. You'd think we all speak the same language, but we clearly don't. On this hangout, I would like to say I'm not speaking anything other than Babel, Anglo, common tongue. Okay, so that's where we're at.
Can I just ask you something? I did, for this hangout, use that post you made of those people in the house and you were waiting there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you tell what happened to them?
Yes, what had happened, let me just check in with our lass about something, because she just popped in and I don't want to, somebody may need something from the room. Let me just see. Excuse me, everyone. And then we'll get straight back to it. Do you need something, my love? No, nothing. Nothing. We're all good. All right. I'll be down. Not long.
Visiting, so. He knows what that means, David.
We're all good. We're all good. Yeah, about 3 hours. What happened at that little clip was this will take 5 minutes to tell you, so you get the full picture. I was in Derby, got a phone call from a brother that I was had in my team at the warehouse. He says, Dave, someone's been to my dad's house and they said that there's a bill owed for a bus parking charge. We'll call it a traffic contravention, a PCN. And this PCN penalty charge notification had been ignored. And in law, when a controversy is created, it must be dealt with. So if man doesn't answer to, the ignorance is bliss concept, then the current legal system has a pre-action and a protocol system that runs so it will act in your absence and failure to respond or to reply or to represent. So this old man, like of about 80, he's got a mental issue, a health issue. He's got a few things going on. He's not well. Rung his lad up and said, here, Big Barry's been. He's given me a letter and he's coming back at 6. Get your arse round here. So he was away, the son, and he says, I'll get round and see you. Don't worry, Dad. In the meantime, Big Barry come back before 6 and the old man opened the door again, the father. And he's like, what? And the scenario is the door of the property dwelling house, is got the footpath right next to the front door. And then it's got the road. Because of the traffic, the old man, who was quite ill and hard of hearing, said to the Big Barry, he made a mistake. Out of his politeness and because of his religion, he's a Muslim man. Yeah, he doesn't speak very good English. He's been over here a while, but he's not fluent in English. He's definitely not fluent in legalese, okay? And he's definitely not able to know when he's contracting through the deception of the language and the actions of his hospitality. So because he couldn't hear, he invited the gentleman in to have a chat. That was it. It was okay. So the agent then gained what's called peaceful entry. He didn't force his way. He didn't threaten his way. He didn't change the locks. The police weren't there. He'd just come up to the address and he's got peaceful entry. Once he's in there, turns on his camera and he starts cataloguing everything, what he's going to be taking. And this old bloke's like, whoa, hang on a minute. May you just introduce yourself? Whom are you? What's going on? I spoke to you earlier. My son is on his way. All will be good. No, too late. He's like cataloguing everything and he's ringing somebody else up to get another van. And this old bloke's like, what? He's trying to speak to him and he's ignoring him. This man's been honourable, he's been polite, he's been courteous, he's willing to deal with it. But because this man's gained entry, what you need to know and what everyone needs to know is he deems that as I'm in, I'm off. And that's it. There's no contractual agreement. He's got a list that he's making and he's got a bill that he wants to collect monies allegedly for. And he's here to collect goods to the value of. Now, this is man's private property and possessions. There are no goods. Goods are for market. This is the language, the dictionaries, and the terminology that helps you. And this old bloke's like, all right, then, gets the lad on the phone. Get your arse in now. This bloke's making a list. I don't know what's going on. And the kid's like, how's he got in the house, Dad? He's like, well, I couldn't hear him, so I've opened the door and I said, come in, let's have a chat. And now he's just doing what he wants. That's a fact. That actually happened. So, the son gets there and says, right, he's rung me though on his way, the son. And I said, right, you need to ring the police and tell them that there's an agent in the property that's not gained lawful or legal access. He's gained access under deception and is now committing theft and trespass. And tell them that on the phone before the officers get there, to give them advance notice that you are calling up for them to protect and to serve under their duty of public office. Now, that's not an oath. That's a duty of public office. It says to protect and to serve for the corporation, which is the police. They are a private, non-public organisation. They're run privately. They're paid for privately. We've gone down that route many a time. So he's rang the old bill. He said that the police, the constabulary, sorry for slang, because I do respect them, the ones that do honourably execute their duties as required by man, and some do. So for that, I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not giving them nicknames. He called up the constabulary and he told them what I said. They turned up at the property before the son. The son gets there after and he rings me and says, right, let's speak to my dad. And I speak to the dad. I said, what's happening? He says, the police are here and they are helping the man. I'm like, are you having a giraffe? Say that again. That's a bad line. The police are here, David. They are helping the man. I'm like, okay, I need to speak to the officers and I need your permission to do so. I'm going to act as your agent and I'm going to translate for you and your son, who's my mate. You know, he works for me in the warehouse. And I said, all right. So then he puts me on speakerphone and he says, hello, officer. This is my lawyer. Whoa, I'm not a lawyer, but he didn't know. And he says, so that was a bit, full on. Officer hears me on speakerphone. And he says, what do you want? And I says, hello there. There seems to have been some confusion. I says, may I take your name and look at your warrant card? And may you produce ID for your status, capacity and everything to these two, fellows that you've come out to help today. I've got to keep the names private because it's a real thing that happened. I'm not going to breach data. And so they were a bit ambiguous about that. And they wanted to give collar references. And I said, that's not enough. We need the full name, not John Smith, John Smith, not PC Smith, John Smith. And I'd like to see the warrant cards for what, I won't get into that, but your ID. And I said, are you here as officers or are you here as under your oath as constables? And he replied, what's the difference? And I said, there is a big difference. Officers work for the Crown. Sorry, let's mute that. Officers work for the Crown, I said, and police constables are here under their, duty of care, oath to uphold impartiality, show due diligence and follow the law. Stop harm, injury and duress happening, which is what's happening with this trespass and theft that we're reporting right now. And he said, I'm not really willing to speak to you. And he hung up. And then I rang back because I put him on his toes. That's what you get, resistance. So I then anxiously rang back, got put back onto speakerphone. I said, I believe we got cut off. I didn't swear, didn't get angry. And I said, about the authority now. I said, I've advised this, my client, because he's effectively my client. I'm now trustee and, attorney at law at this point in a private capacity, appointed by this man and that lad. And I said, so I need to know if you're here to help and stop the trespass and the theft that's happening at hand, and whom is here in the room, because I will be on my way soon and we may need to claim for damages. That puts them on the toes a bit more, because if you're going to break the law by enforcing public code, you can't break law by enforcing company policy, because that's wrong. That law is law and policy is lower. It's policy. So I pointed that out, and I asked for any papers and warrants and execution of warrants and these kind of things. Like if you've got an order for taking control of goods, I'll point out these are private property and possessions. There are no goods. And we need to address this because this lad doesn't live there and is an administrative error and it's going to cause a mass amount of damages. We need to stop it and respond to it correctly. So is there a warrant and your IDs and what capacity? We got there and you give their ID.
David, can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? Was the tickets for the son then who wasn't living there? And they were coming round to that house to take the goods?
Yeah, off the old man, but the son had left his vehicle registration details at the DVLA at that address where his dad was, and he'd only been moved about, I think, 2 weeks. It wasn't like he was living over yonder for 6 months and trying to do something untoward. He'd just managed to find somewhere, and he'd only been 2 weeks. You know, it's the last thing you do when you move house. Think about that sometimes when you in a desperate situation. So he'd overlooked it, and that isn't a crime. Overlooking an administrative function is not a crime. It's just an error. So
do we have a right then when someone has moved out so it's nothing to do with that person anymore to go in and take goods? That's it wrong.
That is where the vehicle and driver are still registered. Then yes, they have no alternative but to go to that registered keeper or driver's address to seek the goods to the value of or serve the order.
How does it say someone you move out of a property and someone's had a Visa card and run it all up? Is it that's still on that property and you've moved in? Is it the same thing or completely different?
Yeah, it's the same thing. You'd have to prove it who you are. So Big Barry would turn up, you've just moved in, and he says, hello, I want Jane Doe. And you're like, I'm not Jane Doe. Yeah, well, I've got an order to take some, or fight. And you'll be like, whoa. And you'd have to prove your innocence to Big Barry to get him to go away. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just unmuted there listening. Yeah, wow. Because I remember moving into a property when I had that. I just sent back the letter saying this person doesn't live here anymore, and that was it. But I'm just saying I can see the same thing happening then.
Yeah.
So anyway, carry on. What happened?
So as I was asking for the identity and and getting through, telling the son to take pictures of everybody that was in the room, so I can use that for evidence if there needs to be a claim of whom is there. I said they're in a private residence. They've been called to defend and protect and to serve. They are now assisting a corporate body, a body corporate, which is a dead entity, which has minimum rights. It has no rights because it's dead. And this is man, whom of which we have called upon a crime against man. And these crimes are being committed. Torts are being suffered on the man. I went deep into it. And he says, Dave, he said, the bailiff man, the agent man's left. He said, and the officers are following. He says, we're all right now. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And then he says, he'll be back at 6 in the morning and we're not to sell anything. I goes, what? Really? He goes, yeah, we can close. My dad's closed the door and they've disappeared. And they left because I put the pressure on from Derby, and these guys were effectively Burton on Trent. So I was only on the telephone and I controlled the situation using aspects of real law and rights and claiming damages back upon liability for failure to act upon in the capacity of. And yeah, that sounds deep and technical, but once you know a few simple things, which we're teaching by these videos and chats and hangouts and everything else, then it comes to you quite,
If
simple.
It turns out to be a sort of more private thing, the police don't really want to get involved anyway. So it's a bit like if you're going, I need to get my stuff out of there. They're not going to get involved, but they might wait on the road just to make sure you're okay getting your stuff. But they won't get involved. They won't help you.
Yeah, that's what we call a civil dispute. When you have a common law civil dispute, it's a different thing. Yeah, because they used to call that a domestic back in the 80s. Oh, it's the domestic. It's not a crime. It's just a civil dispute. So in the 80s, it was widely recognised that men having too much beer and Nicky Lauder and going home and smashing hell out the family and wives, which was common occurrence in the 80s. I can testify to that. They'd turn up and they'd say, oh, it's just a domestic, and they'd walk off. But yet there's blood and items damaged. There's criminal damage, but yet it's just a domestic. So it's, you see, it's civil, but it goes borderline criminal sometimes, this civil area, of which it gets messy. So they just go, no, it's too much paperwork. They used to, it's not so much like that now, but you've just made a comment of which I'm using actual old evidences of how it used to be compared to now. Everything that's public and civil and statutory and coded and tiny, man gets letters for final notices for owing £2 of rent or £2 of tax to the local government council. And that's the council tax, local government council tax. You owe 50 pence, you'll get a letter and summons, and they'll make a mountain of 1,100 quid out of 50 pence, and that's the system you're in. And if you think that is any kind of lawful, just, right and proper, it's not. They're not there to help you. Most of the time, if man calls up for an officer and you get an officer, they're there to serve the crown. And if you're classed under the assumptions and presumptions as the Mr., the all caps, the date of birth and the surname, then you fall into citizen and person, which gives them senior authority because they govern they. And that's where we then have the power to go above. Everybody says it's gone like man is here and government is above now. And so we've switched, and God, you go religious if you want, that's fine. And we can argue that. And the separation, it's incredible. It is, but it's simple. I'll take questions from the chat room. We're loaded up. I'm ready to go. And we'll see.
What happens at the end for these people then?
In the end, the officers, I went back, didn't I? That video, what you've used then is the rendition of me turning up at 5:05 and waiting from then, because sometimes they'll turn up early and going live for a bit, just letting everybody know that don't feel threatened, don't feel intimidated. Removal of access and implied rights will have been mentioned. Common law will have been talked about. And also crimes, and then what you can do to ask for the let me think now, because there's two types of debt here. There's a debt that's been sold on and the company have now bought and are collecting for, or there's the fact that these agents and debt collectors, bailiffs, have acted upon instruction from a client and haven't bought the debt, but are working to get a cut of what they collect for that client. So I was explaining all, because it goes a bit deep there with the debt collection. It's just the two sides of it. And you deal with them slightly differently depending on what they are. These were collecting on behalf of a client and hadn't bought the debt. So that means you have to act by going out and facing them still, because they're acting on a client, and we need to give them a cease and desist and get them to pass the debt back to the alleged creditor, or the alleged debt back to the alleged creditor. And then we correct the trust relationships within that once that debt's gone from Big Barry back to the creditor. But you need to stand there and you need to, this is law, what I'm using. If you're wondering what I'm doing there, I'm using the law of man and the heart, mind, and this is what I didn't go to uni, I didn't go to certificate, I'm not a graduate and I'm not associated with the bar, but I can stand there as a man on the street with more power than Big Barry and the alleged fake clown court alleged warrant for good possession, execution, you know what I mean, of the capital, and these are the things in the state and the county and the district, and they're not people, they're all offices of working for ultimately up on high and the Romans. And so I give to you this, because if the Romans are going to proceed to have this war upon man, and we're in the winter of discontent and there's a lot of horrible, nasty stuff going off, then the least we can do is do stuff like this in the time of Advent and goodwill to all man. You need a boost. So here it is.
So basically, the thing is about interactions with bailiffs and officers and agents. So there is a way of talking around them, isn't it, if they come? That's what the point of this hangout is. So if anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask David. Someone's already put one. Waiting wisdom. How does it differ if the debt is sold on?
You would look at the title deed. Be wary of what I say. Please double check everything that I say. I'm not giving legal advice. This is just a family chat. So there may be and there will be errors and or omissions. Please double check. But say you have a debt, alleged debt, with a catalogue, council, credit card, car finance, anything, and it's got a reference number, then you get into you fail to pay and you get into default and into arrears, and the account goes into debit and you know it goes into collection stage. Then when you get the notice from the collectors, that then will have a reference to the debt, and then that reference will either be the same if they are agents collecting for and haven't bought it, and if they've bought it, then what's called the title deed to that document debt and that document, because it's a bond, you know, it's a debt, and someone's got to pay for it. All debts must be paid. Remember, Jesus died for our, not sins, but for our debts. So if all debts must be paid, that's why Jesus is so important in this story. We got a little bit mixed up with the debts and the sins, but Jesus died for our debts. All debts must be paid. And this man has now got, if he's bought the debt, he's paid for the debt. Thank you very much. You've cleared the account. You've sorted it. So if you've bought it and paid for it, now you're trying to get collection upon it, the title deed number will have changed. I'm not going to give you all the data now because I might get it wrong, but there's a specific, unique way of telling how that's changed. Now, if the debt reference was 4 ones and an A originally, and if the debt hadn't been bought on and Big Barry's collecting for said creditor, it will still be reference 4 ones and an A, alpha. Now, if it's been bought, some parts may change, the letters or the numbers, and I believe it's even if the letters, even so, if it was 4 ones and a B, yes, then you'd know, you could see that it was a different debt because it's now 4 ones and a B. It was 4 ones and an A. But if it was 4 twos and an A, you know, there's a rule here, and I can't remember what it is, so don't put me on the spot, but I'll get it you if you need it. And that's how you tell. Basically, in essence, paraphrasing that. All right. Next.
I'm looking in the chat room. There isn't actually another question.
I'll see a few of the usual suspects. 45 viewing, so I'd like to go. Boss.
Oh, here you go. Here's one. Alan of the family Richardson says, what would you say if a DCA only release a car clamp after you set a payment plan?
What would you say? Could you define DCA? District something attorney, I'm thinking there, but the credit agency.
They will only release a car clamp after you set up a payment plan.
No, because it depends on the debt and what stage it's in. And if somebody clamps a car, then it depends where they clamp it, and where, if we're given a lot of variables out here, because if you put said property, asset, car on neighbour's drive or somewhere else, they can't go on there and clamp it. There's rules to this game of clamping as well. So let me get the comments up. I need to know what a DCA is, just for complete clarity. I think it's something debit collection agency. Not, I was taking the mick with district something attorney. If the Iron Horse property asset vehicle,
that's like the debt. Yeah. Whatever it is, agency.
Yeah. Just for clarity, because if I assume, I'll make an ass out of you and me. It's not that I don't know, or I need to know what you mean.
Yeah.
So if these are the rules, you see. If that item asset is used to bring in work, like if you watch BBC documentary Panorama special, Killed by My Debt. They clamped the lad's bike, allegedly, judging by that documentary by the BBC. They clamped that lad's bike, who he needed that to ferry organs around in London. And because he'd got the fine and now he'd lost the bike, he went off and took his own life because he saw no way out. Now, these lot, I'm not laying claim. This is, again, not me. I'm only repeating what I saw. I may have got it wrong. I'm not laying claim here. I have to be very careful these days because there's a lot of folk after me. I'm sorry, but on that documentary, if you go and find it and watch it, that poor soul took his life because they clamped and impounded and restricted the use of a vehicle that was used for bringing in the bacon, the bread, the money, the you know, the finance. So he couldn't do that. And from what I remember, I did watch it at Sodfest, and I was a little bit, you know, out of it in the realm of excitedness and late nights. But I was quite, you know, disturbed by that. So on that same front, they need to know if the vehicle hasn't been paid for and it's on HP, they can't touch it. So there's rules here. So that sounds an easy question to ask, but again, it's very complex, and I need to know a more structured question to give you a defined answer. But by going like I have just done there, I think I've given you an awful lot. Next. This is fun. I'm liking this.
Going through.
I'm looking too. I'll help you.
Someone wondered whether it was DVLA, but I think it was the Debt Credit Agency.
That's all right. We assumed well. We assumed well, but we can't assume.
Oh, David, Awaiting Wisdom says this guy is amazing.
Oh, bless. But we are amazing. You are amazing, because if you're watching me instead of the box, or playing on the sex box, or out there having a bash and drinking, you know, whatever, and partying and being in ignorance is bliss, then the fact that you've got Wi-Fi, you pay for Wi-Fi, you've got a handset, you've got a laptop, and you keep this going, this level of, then I salute you in a non-military way, in a brotherly, sisterly way, because this is where the revolution is at. It won't be televised, it's just interactive.
Yes, but it's there, isn't it?
I can confidently say now, proclaim, yeah, it is there. And thanks to you, me, YouTube in itself, we are being watched. It is governed. We're giving too much away to the AI. I'm aware of that, very aware. But I'm able to confidently sit here and say on my Jack Jones in front of the creator that I, David of the clan, tribe, family Giaramita, am now 99.9% sure that man is able to discharge all and any and all legal claims made upon their person in a civil realm, in a commercial realm, not using UCC, not using Admiralty, not using legalese, rebutting the assumptions and presumptions of law, standing there in the highest capacity on dry land as man, but using the instrumentation to interact on our behalf and appoint the correct liability to, and when we correct the trust relationship verbally, albeit verbally, in the correct way to the appointed fiduciaries, and hold them to contempt under their own rules, like the 1911 Perjury Act. Show Ryukin! It's just a proper little moment that I'm telling you, there's just nothing anybody can do. You know who you are, where you are, what's public statutory code, what the law is. And again, you are seeing that the law and the righteousness of these realms is how we win. And they will show ignorance, they will show anger, they will show vexation, they will get tools and weapons and lights and sirens and gangs and dress in black and send you horrible notices and threaten you. And it's not a nice game to be playing. And when you see that, and I'm sorry to say that the Universal Credit family that we're trying to help out here, don't forget with the DWP, ESA, P900s had a little dab of that and found some success. We'll keep it, you know, protected. But there's a lot of the realm that are finding that they hear what we say and they come and have a little go, like that comments just said there. You're amazing, because not only do you listen, you go and double check. You think, okay, then we'll call him up on this, and they go and they use, and they go, do you know what? We've actually had, and we're getting more testimonials than we've ever had. We're expanding. The email box is heaving. The Rastafari are coming over. We're all joining up as one family. You know, it's truly a unique and an amazing renaissance of which is going off, but we are well behind. We are so behind.
I've got some questions here for you now, and I think two of them are related. So Waiting Wisdom said, can anyone collect the debt? And then Kimmy said, what is the proper certificate? So, you know what I'm saying, the certificate to join, to gain entry to your house. So that's one of them. And the other one is Mikey Smith put, yeah, but taxes are fraud, aren't they?
Taxes are only a tax. A sovereign cannot be taxed. A man cannot be taxed. Income, well, we've talked about income and what the definition of income is. We have an outcome of our input of energy, an output of, credit system is there. There isn't an income for man. There isn't an income for a person, but persons are taxed and militant combatants. So when you look at the UniDroit, and the Lieber Code, oh my days, those alone will box you up. But the UniDroit and the Lieber Code, alongside the paper proclamations of the Roman Catholic cult, we'll call it a church, and the bull papils, and the subsequent creation of the crown by them, Eterni Regis and convocation, and it's just deep. It's so deep. But those two bits there term and deem us under assumptions, presumptions, under the legal capacity, because it's unrebutted under status correction, as the militant combatants. And to cement that, we'll go, you more must have had a letter saying to the legal occupier. Now, when you get that, you should feel insulted, because that occupier is a derivative of a military function. So to get a notice come through, or a statement or a letter or whatever it is, and you responding to the legal occupier, you've then by default and consent, albeit non-informed and deceptive, it's such a nasty game. They will pay for this. We're not going to let them get away with it, but they will not burn, there will not be hung, and there will not be any violence. We will put them all on an island, and we will have the satisfaction of doing this honourably and in a sovereign type way, a lawful rebellion way, a non-violent way, but a disobedient way in law, and be protected, because I want all of you to be protected. I don't want you to go out and start waving flags with icons on, putting on anonymous masks and getting out there, because you will get harmed, you will be arrested, sprayed, maced. You will enforce the middle class to shit their pants and let a white paper come in without any proposal straight to the Queen, and it will say military this, that, the other, and you will bring it on your own. I've seen it, don't worry. I know, and we need to stop that, and we need to make you all 10 men. And so you don't feel the need to go violent, because you've got the defense within here, the defense, and here and here. So you think it, you speak it, and you know it. And the last one is there. When you got it there, and it's there, it just flows. And that's what I've done. And I've had to immerse myself into that. So that's the answer for that second question. And the first one, you'll have to remind me.
They're kind of linked, because they're waiting with. So that was for Kimmy. Yeah. For you, Kimmy. I'm sorry. Answer for Mikey Smith, and then Kimmy and Waiting Wisdom. It was, can anyone collect the debt? Waiting Wisdom, and Kimmy said, and what is the proper certificate to gain to your property? What do they need?
A warrant of entry signed by a judge with a legible name and wet ink signature. I won't be taking no photocopied digital versions of warrants of entry, warrants of execution. Let me think. So you've got a warrant and an execution, an order. There's usually an order given. When you give orders, it's a military function. The Attorney General or the judge is given an order, and he's ordered that this take place. When you give an order, you should get a bill. That's the functionality of the system. The Bills of Exchange 1882 will clarify that for anybody who doesn't yet know. When you give an order in a restaurant and you eat and you are full, you're about to leave, you ask for the bill. When you go to the internet and you use your international, UCC commercial instrumentation, and you go on eBay or Wish or Geek, or, I'm just saying, like USA, China, Amazon, Asda. I'm trying to say many now because I've accidentally said a few corporate names and I shouldn't have. But yeah, you do that and you place your order and you'll get a bill. So a statement. So that's how the world works. So once the judge gives an order, we should be giving a bill, but we don't. And that's the first part. But the order is for taking control of goods, and you can search for on any search engine. And I'm going to put specialized forums on spowspro.com and put the evidences and documentations and government links and orders of all of this referenceable in the public domain from the .gov. And then we will talk about what you see about the orders for taking control of goods and the warrants of executions and how a warrant should be done, a proper warrant, what warrants are being exhibited as legible proofs. And like I said on the telephone, going back to that guy who I was in Derby and this was happening in Burton-on-Trent, I got remedied, for that situation via a phone. And all I did was request what I told you in there. So it's all there. That question's been answered previously. We can go to the next.
Okay, can I just say something? If you like, if you can see it, I could probably share the chat room on the panel. You know, I can screen share it.
Got
So
here, Bobby.
you can see the questions. Okay, cool. So some people are coming in the chat room right now, and obviously someone else said, who was it? Nick Mad said good show. So there you go.
Thank you, Nick. Respect.
You know him, by the way.
No, I'm just saying thank you and respect.
A few people awaiting wisdom wants to link up with
YouTube.
you.
Steady.
It's okay.
My mum. YouTube. Giaramita and Giaramita. Debut.
Yes.
Hello there.
Sorry, I'm doing questions.
No worries.
Yeah.
I just come to see what you're doing.
Sure. Hello, carry on. Sorry, sister, go on. It's all good.
Yeah, so Matt, awaiting wisdom would like to link up with you. His channel's been put on, you know, the link of your channel. Or someone's put a link to you on there for him to get in touch with you. He wants to. And he also says, "Mum or sister."
He said what? Mum or sister? Oh, bless. Oh, how kind.
I love him. Who is that?
This is Karen from Sun and Moon, and we're having a chat about.
Oh, I love you, Karen. Thank you.
I told my mum about you.
Sister, I wish. Mind you, I am nearly his sister. We're only 16 years apart. I did it very young.
That's enough privacy release. What a scoop. Scoop here on Sun and Moon. Mum, bless you.
It was legal.
Yes. We're doing a chat about interacting with bailiffs, officers and agents. Have you got anything you'd like to say that could help anybody?
Well, if I contribute as we go along, I'll just join the room, so we'll see, huh?
Yeah, we can do that. Wow, surprise visit from Mama Jew. Okay, YouTube, get ready.
Your mum, you said that your mum was something anyway. So what does she do as her job?
She's now retired and just chilling. She does Reiki, is it, and holistic.
I'm a Reiki master in Greece, and I do yoga and Pilates.
Right.
I've left this world and I've gone to the other one. It's much better.
Yeah. Out of the system, in your own.
And before out of the system and into your own one.
That's right.
The world.
Oh yes, much better. It's scary but good.
And before that, she had 20 years at Derby University, involved in the lecturing tierage system as a lecturer, and ended up head of law.
Criminology and law. Not law. I was a lawyer, but I used to run 2 degrees at the University of Derby.
Yeah.
We won't shout that name out. I don't want to applaud them. Yeah, so I've had a bit of a checkered life, but it's all good. What about you, sweetheart?
Me? Well, I've been a mum for 30 odd years. Married,
book a wife, do they?
A wife. I've also had my own social club and do Sun and Moon. So that's my accomplishment. 4 children, 2 grandchildren. And actually, an accomplishment is paying the mortgage on my house. Yeah, bills.
Yeah.
Debt slaves. We're all debt slaves.
Exactly. But you're happy. Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm okay at the moment, thanks. But probably not as free as you.
Right, so
comes at a cost.
I'm gonna bring it in. I'm gonna bring it back in, sister. That's
yes, nice to meet you.
We're doing good.
It's all my fault. Bye.
Oh, she's leaving. She doesn't have to leave.
No, I didn't say that. She can stay. I'm just bringing us back on track to the questions.
You said hello. Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm a little bit scared.
Don't be scared.
This was unplanned.
Oh, well,
the mum saying something. Yeah, my kids are a bit like that.
Sovereign Jedi mode activated.
Can you? I know that obviously you want more questions, but do you remember I put one up that you did? I really like that one where you were in your living room and you were a bit like, oh, you were talking about Channel 5, and it was a bit like, oh, and then you get a knock at the door, and what do? You open the door and you let them in rather than it was about the police coming to your door. Do you want to explain that a little bit? Because that just helps people, because this is about learning to do things differently and not, you know, knowing that there's a different way to do things.
So yeah, again, that comes down to peaceful entry. So these predatory, you know, deceptive language speaking vultures of goods want them goods, and they've got a target to get to. They need to earn money. And again, they are like the Crown and the Black ones. They don't have a soul. They don't have a conscience. They will come and take Christmas presents. This last few weeks, agents like that have been operating and they will meet single mums and they will go in there and take goods to the value of, because their husband or their boyfriends maybe left them in the lurch, had sex at an office party, fell in love with the younger receptionist, left them high and dry. They come to Christmas, big Barry's here, laddo's gone away, no fault of the mum, who's now vulnerable because she's a mum on her own. The system ignores the vulnerability and just goes in for the money, like a bull with the horns to a target. They're after the bully on. They need the gold. That's all they see. So the mum will open the door. There'll be a knock. I've set the scene. There'll be a knock. The mum opens the door and he's like, "Well, hello, yeah, I've come in. Got this debt. You need to pay it. If you don't pay it, you know, I'm coming back. I'll bring my friends. They're big lads, you know." The people that do this job aren't wearing suits and ties at FYI. They're big hench guys with tattoos, gold chains. They look, you know, the business. They wear cameras. They might have stab vests on, you know, single little lady, whatever, old age pensioner, elderly man, mentally disabled, physically deaf, you know, in a wheelchair. We'll even include that. Knock at the door, opening in it. He's coming in. He doesn't mind. You know, he will have certain degree. Again, I can't classify them all. But from what I've seen from certain companies and what the BBC Panorama highlighted and what my trust and, you know, in effect, charity work that I do is finding out, I can give you first-hand knowledge from me by my interaction over the last 2 to 3 years. They are soulless, 80% of them. Some of them listen. Some of them will make notes. Some of them will go away, but they will be back and it will need to be addressed. So if you let them in, that's the error, because you should always keep the door closed.
Yeah.
Because it's a civil matter. It's not a crime. And if there's an attending officer, he's only there to keep the peace. So if anybody needs to know for safety, the officer is there as an officer, not a police constable. Check the status of him. He will always be an officer. So he's there to do duty to the Crown and the Crown collection revenue. But he can't publicly say that. So what he's doing is waiting for his first chance to get you in on a statutory infraction. So you don't open the door, because if they could come in, they'd be in. There wouldn't be a knock. There'd be a bang. And you'd be like, "Whoa, hello, what's happening? We're here. You've done a bad thing. You're coming with us." That's how it'd go down. But they're knocking at the door. All right then, so they're knocking at the door. There's no bang, there's no crime. So what happens here then? We open the door. Well, once that, you put your foot in, you put your shoulder in, and he's having a chat with you now, and you're on your own, you've got your children there. All right, come in, we'll talk about the debt. You've been honourable, you've opened the door, you want to talk about the debt. He's gained that, he's got entry successful. Next job, identity. Who are you? I'm Jane Doe. Okay, Jane, where's John Doe? Oh, he's left recently. Okay, is he coming back? When will he be back? He's not. He's ran off with the receptionist at work. Starts breaking down. So he'll you know, that's it, isn't it?
Walk-in possession. So when they walk in, they have possession. If you don't let them in,
there you go.
You're not obliged. And then they don't have possession. So the biggest mistake is opening the door. Don't open the door to the bailiff.
Communicate through a window upstairs.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's one for you all. Visitors, put this up in your window or on a place where you can see it, on a sign outside, laminate it, put it in several places. Under the doctrine of notices, which lies at the heart of equity, which trumps all public law, a notice displayed and read is deemed as served. And when I say that, you are deemed under their rules. They're deemed, we use it back to them, because that's how we work it. So it works 100%. And on this notice, family, I would consider these words: visitors strictly seen by appointment only. And then you put a contact email, so then they can't come because you've given them a sign, and it's like trespass. You can put that up, private property, and visitors seen strictly by appointment only. You've noticed them. If they come now knocking, they're harassing you. You've put a sign up, it's lawful. You can ring the constabulary and say, "Hello, I've got a trespasser on my property. Come please." They will come. They will see your sign, and the police will then say, well, they've put a sign up here saying private property, trespass. You don't put common law applies exclusively, please. We'll talk about that later if anybody's interested. And then just leave it at that. And then they've got the contact number, maybe an unregistered SIM card you've put in an old phone, you know, so you can talk to them through that, and they can ring you on that. You must contact us. No, thanks. Not spending money to contact you to contract with you so you can rinse me and my family. You can contact me. So that would indemnify you of them coming back. They would have to contact and making an appointment to come and knock at your door. Therefore, the knocking has to cease, where you can ring up the constabulary and back it up because of that notice. See, so we box clever. We use their rules against them to protect ourselves.
As long as it's visible, they can read it. You have nothing to worry about.
If you haven't got a driveway, I'm already hearing you, YouTube. If you haven't got a driveway and your door is on the path, it still works. But they'll just come and knock, and you'll have to get cameras up and get a camera up and record them harassing you. Once you've got them harassing you at the door, when that notice is in the window, where you can prove it in a court of law, then you can got grounds for claiming for ignorance and breach of law when they're only following public policy under assumptions and presumptions. So
Taff has put something on there, David. He says there was a programme on the BBC, the sheriffs are coming. They say you cannot stop them getting in because they're from the high courts. Is that true?
Well, the High Court writ warrants, the BBC and Channel 5 and these corporations can't show you lot Chrissy Morris getting the bailiffs off, because if just for example, Chrissy Morris was on and I followed him for some time. I got a lot of love and respect for the man for what he taught me when I learned it from him. And he was on a TV show, and it got shown the Asian lady in Derbyshire that just broke that thing off that building, and they went for repossession, and she got took to court because it was a listed Grade A building. She had the builders in, and there was a load of hoo-ha, and they really portrayed it quite nastily. So they will never. These sheriffs are coming. I'm getting to the point. And the High Court sheriffs, when there's evaluation in a high amount and they're after a lot of money, maybe a judge will actually sign a real warrant. Some do get actually stamped, don't they? They do actually. They're not all rubber stamped and missing a signature in wet ink with a legible. It depends
what it is. There's so many ifs, buts, and maybes here. You have to hone it down to a specific case. You can't do a generalized answer here because it depends on what it is they're after.
The claim
it's
itself.
Too much. You cannot give that advice right now.
Say it was for a house, a mortgage arrears, and they're trying to serve on the bricks and mortar because they've got a notice of equitable interest, and they're saying you're going to lose this house. Here's the High Court sheriff. You're getting evicted. That kind of scenario. The banks always win because it's a financial issue, and there's a notice of an equitable charge in on the property when the mortgage is taken out. And as we've identified, when equity, the maxim of first in time is first in line. So if you've got a notice of equitable charge from day one, when the set laws create that money and get this fraudulent mortgage set up with the indemnification policy, the SPVs, us lending them the money and then putting a notice of equitable charge, the house will win 10 times out of 10 because they've got the equitable right. So that's why the sheriff will get in on the warrant, because they use the equitable side, and the notice of equitable interest is the public side with the debt, NOI, SOI, but with mortgages and high value houses, they've got the equitable access under the real law because they've put that charge on.
You can't, you only have to default for 2 months and they can come in. Then you go to court and say, listen, I'll pay, but I can't pay exactly what I promised to do in the first instance, but I can maybe, if you give me a bit more time, save the house. I mean, I've done it myself, so, it honestly depends on each case. You cannot give generalized advice here.
That's what I said before. It does. It really does.
You have to look into it. Be very
every
dangerous.
Every case is different. So
exactly
on its own merits. Yeah. It's based on its own merits.
You also need to know the full facts, because people come to you and say it's like this, and you think, oh, they're telling me the truth. Then you realise they're not telling you the truth. They're hiding things to make you choke.
Yeah, they do. It happens a lot. Well,
they don't
mean to. They don't understand, and they don't give you the full picture, and you find it out.
Very
and you're
hard
like, oh.
Game that you play. It's very, you mustn't ever be put on the spot and give advice because it's very dangerous, and you want to help people. Yes. Yeah. You really want to help people. But I mean, at Derby, I ran a miscarriages of justice project that I got off the ground. It was very hard work. And I met some very damaged, very vulnerable people that really aren't very compos mentis. And they are so damaged. They've been in prison, maybe. They've been screwed over by the system. And they are coming to me because we didn't, it was a pro bono student learning experience because they were criminologists and lawyers, and I learned the hard way. And I say to him, please don't get into that situation where you feel you can take everything as gospel that they tell you, and you feel on the spot to help, because it's a scary place he's in right now. I've been there. Thank God I'm not there anymore.
It's a law renaissance. We're in a lawful renaissance. It's not scary, but it's uncharted. It's uncharted.
It's scary. Because you're trying to help people and you think you're getting the story, but you need to know. You got to give me everything. Don't lie to me. I don't care if it's embarrassing, makes you look rubbish. You got to tell me, because if you lie to your lawyer or your
attorney at law,
Mackenzie friend, or whatever you want to describe paralegal, this guy, your
sovereign paralegal,
whatever it is you want to classify him as, you've got to give him warts and all. And people don't want to do that. And then you're going off and then you get ambushed. So it's very, you've got to have.
You've got to help me or help us to help you, is what she's saying there. And full disclosure is paramount.
For sure. Yeah. There's New Year's Eve. I'm on holiday, by the way. Yeah.
That's Greek. Cheers, Greek in cheers.
There's two more questions. Awaiting, because they're going, and I've got to make sure I get them to you then. Awaiting wisdom, is a non-secured loan the same? And Super Lead said, if I have a mortgage on my house, can I put it in a trust?
A non-secured loan, that's simple enough, isn't it? It says it in the title. Yeah, it's non-secured, meaning there's no security to it. So
go screw themselves.
That's a clue. That was fast. And the next one,
again, yourself.
Mortgage. What? Can you put your mortgage into a trust? No, you can't, because you already have it in a trust situation, aren't you?
It's property.
Yeah, it's no. You've already agreed and done and set it up and accepted the public trustee position, which is legally liable. You can't then go and take that concept with all of that indemnification, bonding, SPVs, notice of equitable things, and whatever else is on there, and probably power of attorney is mixed in. So they've got power of attorney written into that mortgage over you, and you want to go and try and put all that into an express private trust or equivalent, irrevocable. You've no chance. You'll get rinsed for that. But of course,
you can only put your property into a trust.
Yeah,
and a mortgage is not your property.
No, and you couldn't. Yeah, and you haven't got the allodial title to the bricks and mortar asset, the property, so you can't even claim anything on that. And with what I've said, that would be futile. You could only put a paid for house with no equitable charge on it into a trust, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And you'd have to search the land registry to see if there was a charge on there for those that have got their own bricks and mortar, that are fortunate to have their own bricks and mortar asset paid for. Go and search land registry for your equitable charge. If there is one, remove it, and then come back to me at david@splspro.com and email me, and we can discuss asset protection. Yes.
Can I just put a disclaimer in here?
Yes.
Being legally trained. My disclaimer is, I'm drunk, by the way, because I like my red wine. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm on holiday, and I've just come up to say hello. So please don't take anything I've said as kosher. But I do think I said the right thing, but just in case, just to cover myself legally, you might say.
I've already said disclaimer. Thank you, man. Bless her.
You must be proud of David doing all this. I mean, I've known David for a while now. He's such a lovely man. He's so kind and caring, on top of all the information he knows.
He's an indigo child.
Yes.
You know indigo children, right?
Oh, David.
Go.
Stop it. No, what's happening? It's
Do you know about indigos?
Yes, I would.
Of course.
They do.
Yeah. Well, so there you go. It's my fault, but there you go.
Bless you.
Such is life.
Yay.
No, I am, because you know something. When he was 8, you hate me for telling you this, but I know I was going to do this. At a premonition, this was going to happen.
I wish I did.
So here it is. When he was 18 years old, he said to me, Mum, why do the words move around on the page? And I went, you seriously telling me that at 18? Having messed up at school because he was bored, he was too clever. He could say the word grandma at 9 months old. He was an angel, and then he turned into the freaking devil. Weren't you? An absolute little bastard. If I could get him a tattoo, I don't care. If I could get him a tattoo, it would say little BSASTARD or whatever the hell. Yeah. We're both dyslexic, by the way, but that makes us geniuses, and he's an angel. I love him to bits.
Thank you, Mum.
Eventually. Yes, I am very proud of him. He's found his role in life at last.
Anish, he's a really clever person.
Yes.
No, but I said earlier, sister, if you remember, at school, I did struggle, and I was called a spastic, retard, ADHD, weird, you know, well, hyperactive. And I struggled with language because I could see the language and the problems, and then as I got older, and that's just reinforced what I said, so yeah.
David, I was
called me to drug him with lithium or something. No, but when he was a kid, I went, are you serious? You want me to drug my baby? Are you mad? Why would I do that? So I just
Ritalin, not lithium, Ritalin.
Oh, Ritalin. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Ritalin. Right. Ritalin.
That's the state advising my mum, and I'm a baby.
No way. So what I did is I bought locks, and I locked all the rooms up so we couldn't go in and destroy them. I'm giving you it now.
I was called the same. I was called the same, and all it was is in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, they piloted this horrible thing called ITA, which was a totally different phonics. And then none of those places which had piloted it told the next place we'd all been taught this. So basically, there are thousands of children my age artificially dyslexic. But I bet you most of those are the awake ones, because I missed the whole of my junior education.
There you go. We're in the same club, baby. What can I say? We're gifted, but we're cursed.
You've got to miss your education to not.
Go on, carry on.
Well, you know, like we're not programmed the same because we didn't do it.
The program, and it's great. We are gifted and happy, but they want to put us down. But they know, in the end of the day, we're going to win. I know it sounds crazy, and I've just had many lovely conversations. I've been taken to places by the angels. I know it sounds weird, but that's the world I'm in right now, and I don't give a rat's ass what people think about me. I'm just going to go with the flow, and I was told to come up here and talk to you, so here I am.
Oh, can I ask you something? Obviously, David Niche is the leader, right? But he also knows we're not a spinning ball. Is it the same for you? We're not spinning balls flying through space.
No, quite the opposite. We're chosen. We've been sent here to try and save the world, basically. If you want to put it down to that level, our job is to try and rectify what the hell people are trying to do to this world. And we're on a losing battle, but we're trying because that's our job. We have no choice. And they give us messages and people say,
oh, well, your mum's getting a cuddle right now. I'm sending you a cuddle through the internet.
Oh, right, that's enough, ladies.
It's our job.
It's time to man it up. 777. Bless you.
I have had to try and push him in this direction because he didn't know where he was going. And now I'm so proud of him because he's found his niche. And I'm so happy. And he's got a beautiful woman downstairs who has to put up with all this crap. And she does. God bless her. Not crap in the sense that this is crap that we're talking, but when you're not in our world, it's a bit hard for normal people to put up with it. But she's here to look after him. And I said to her, God bless you.
We're a team. We're all family and team, yeah.
You're sent from the angels to look after him. And she's looking at me, okay. Maybe not so much red wine next time.
No, it's not. You're not that drunk.
No, I'm not. I just live on this stuff.
Can I ask you something then?
I don't give a rat's about it.
Anne-Marie, I sacrificed a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's it like in Greece then? Are they flat earthers or are they not in there, still in the globe?
The Greek, they know about proper history and the language and like tachograph. Her fella at the time, Bobby told me that tachograph meant tacho was Greek and graph.
It's all Greek.
Yeah,
all our words
alpha, omega, the what Antikythera machine, and
wow,
there's loads. They know
hydrogen
loads.
thing. They do all that over there. They're very advanced, but they're very backward all at the same time.
IMF, that's the IMF doing that.
You know what? Yeah, the German bastards have screwed them over. Sorry. Bleep. Bleep.
The wine. See?
The German
thing is, in the globe world.
She meant Brussels there. That was to Brussels, not to Germany.
The Troika.
There you go. That's correct. There we go.
In the globe world, Greece might look backward, but in the flat earth world, we want their wisdom.
They've got a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge.
They did. Now they've gone to sleep.
Home of Sparta. This is Sparta.
Yeah, but why have they gone to sleep? Sorry, it's all to do with being in the euro, isn't it? Because they got devalued, like we've been devalued, and Spain got devalued. Some of these countries really got affected when the euro happened. I know it's all part of a whole thing, not just the euro, being part of Europe. But I mean, they're already really hurting, aren't they, the Greeks?
Big style, yep. But they fight back.
Being strangled.
They don't obey. They still smoke inside. They don't give a rat's about. It's like, oh, you can't smoke inside. Oh, well. Off they go.
They do as well.
The non-smokers are sour side like me. I don't smoke anymore. I'm like, oh, my God. It's legal. Oh, well, what does that matter? They don't care.
See, they know they're above.
They play the game, like with the Turks. They're not stupid. But they were very clever once upon a time, but they've sort of gave up.
She means, though, also, would you say they would actually think the realm is round or more so flat? Is what she was, her question was kind of.
They're wedded to religion. To be honest, they don't read the Bible, but they all go to church. They're hypocrites because they're in the church, and I don't do church. I'm a spiritualist. The church is wrong and the religion is wrong.
Yeah, we don't do religion or politics.
They're not spiritual over there. My Reiki business died to death when the tourists go home because they're like, what's Reiki? I'm like, really? This is Greece. And Hippocrates was born just behind where I live.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said.
Mental,
high five.
Mental. Huh?
Yes. And now they're ignorant to their own roots.
Stupid hypocrites, just like all religious bloody people.
A species with amnesia, all whether we are round or flat. I know we're most likely flat, and we are, but it looks. I've seen the evidence of it. Wow. And we are a species with amnesia. His story is the Romans, and we was on about the months earlier. Julius Caesar and Augustus the Great.
Somebody.
Yeah, Augustus. Yeah, I can't. Don't quote. Paraphrasing.
I'm senile now.
Romans messing up calendar months and putting 2 extra months in when we had 13 months. Was it? It would say 10 months of 13 months of 28 days.
Yeah.
13 months of 28 days originally back in the old ways, and these legal systems and these agents are all formulations of this Roman civil mismatch of calendars, time,
Wasn't it the
languages.
Gregorian put in July and August after the Romans? Was that the
Gregorian calendar? Yeah.
I don't know. Don't spring this stuff on me. Anyway.
No. I fragment.
Was your mum into this before you, or was it something that you already felt and was growing in you, or was it because you spoke to David?
I didn't get the beginning of that.
No, I was just saying, this whole thing with flat Earth and the whole thing, because it's the whole thing, isn't it? It's not just the law, but the law which David's talking about is part of it. But is it something that you knew already, or is it something that you sort of realised with David?
The flat Earth thing, to be honest, I don't really understand it. I've never thought about it till he mentioned it. And again, everyone will poo-poo it and say, seriously, don't be daft. But it's like, I have no evidence on that. I haven't seen anything. But I have an open mind, and until I see evidence, I'll keep my mind open. I have no idea which it is, whether it's a flat plate or whether it's a sphere or whether it's something else. I don't really care, to be honest. I don't care about what our Earth looks like. All I care about is being aware, opening my third eye, and being awake to what's coming. Because I'm having some really vivid dreams right now about Armageddon, and I'm like, oh dear, am I getting messages? Am I going insane? What the hell? Because this world we're in is pretty scary, I have to tell you. I'm pretty freaked out about it, but I actually like it, and I feel it's the right way I'm going. But I do feel that I'm a bit weird, and people look at me like, you weirdo, no wonder you give birth to this guy.
The thing is though that flat Earth.
Yes. We're all a little bit weird. Go on, sister.
It's all the lies, and we're not. I mean, do you feel us spinning? We're not moving.
There's a lot of historical and archaeological and megalithic evidence to say that, yeah.
Space. We're not moving. We don't need gravity. Water finds its level, and the list goes on.
The scriptures, the firmament, the seas above, you know, the seas of space, and yeah, I've looked at the Qurans and everything, and I would say I've got an open mind. I've got no evidence to either, but it looks like it's flat to me. And if you can't prove it's round, I'm thinking it's flat because there's no evidence to the contrary. Mr. Tesla. Tesla SpaceX, why didn't you put a camera on the back of that Tesla that you sent off into orbit? We could have had this put to bed. NASA, that's formulated by German scientists that they snuck in. England, Anglo-land, would never have taken loads of German science. We'd never noticed them. Take them over to America under project. Yeah, exactly. Look at that. We do. It was Brussels and the Troika it was referenced to. But, you know, they went over there, they created NASA, and look who got to the top. You watch Bob Lazar and watch what he tells you and other such, you know, information. And it's like the realm is governed by criminals. And the criminals have let, you know, the countries have let criminals in. JFK spoke out, and look what happened to the poor man. Martin Luther King speaks out, look what happens to them. They tried to oppress and arrest all of this, but once the internet was released and we started chatting, they can only watch what we do. And there's enough of us to, you know, to get together now and use this tool to formulate, you know, some kind of you know, honest solution that we're trying to do here, like questions from the room.
What it is it's a bit like you've gone through that bit of trying to work out what we are. We can't prove anything about exactly what shape we are. So you're moving on in the living world, trying to help the living world.
Yeah.
Well, those that are living, because Tap has just put in the chat room, I see a lot of dead people. It's scary and hard to get my head around sometimes. The living dead.
No, that's it. They see the legal realm.
The zombie.
The legal realm is French. So French, and we have Latin and French, and we have Babel in our speech right now. So legal is L-E is French for the, and gal comes from Gaul. It's a gut related. I don't know if you lot have got. I don't know if you lot have got the stomach for this, and you probably might hate my guts for me saying this. You see, so I don't want to lead you down a cul-de-sac. But, yeah, and it's like where the language and things come from. So, you know, it's I forgot my point.
I just think it's absolutely incredible when we stand there and we're sort of going, 2019, and we're so futuristic.
Tomorrow is so
we're nowhere. We don't know nothing. We don't know what shape we are properly. We don't know where we are exactly. We don't know what the sun is. We don't know our history. Politics is a lie. Education is a lie. And everybody out there thinks they know everything.
We know.
But yeah, and it's assumptions and presumptions, and we are fastly, and YouTube is rebutting them. So just to top off what I was saying, legal and the dead, the legal system is the goal. And you know where it comes from now, and that is not lawful, and it's not righteous. It doesn't come from the creator up on high. It's an invention, a manuscript of man to some extent. And the legal system only interacts with the dead. So when you go to the domain, the lower de facto, you know, dominion, non de jure court, and they are not trading bonds without securities, and they are, you go there and you say, I am the man, the body and the flesh. Well, great, that's lovely, but he can't hear you, the judgy banker over there, the robe in the setting that I'm saying, district, county, magistrate. So they can't hear you. Why? Because you're saying you're the body in the flesh. So that's where we tell you always, you are all alive and you are all living. You're alive and kicking, and you are gifts in the present. You are shining stars of your own, and you have the, you know, the autumn and the dome and the temple and everything that you need within to create your own kingdom of heaven as such. And I'm not telling you this as a Christian. So, you know, it's the dead the court will interact with. And when they say, are you Mr. David Giaramita, they're asking me to take that crown copyrighted, all capital Dominicus, ancient, you know, we've properly done this. We can stand and rebut it all. And that's when the living man submits his shit, you know, and if you reserve your right, you will lose, you will win the fight. Reserve your right. So that's the motto for this upcoming year. Submit your shit, yeah, and you will lose it. Submit, and you will lose your shit. And if you reserve your right, you will win the fight. And that's the issue. Reserving your right remains as the man and introduces into the court the legal person. and appoints that to that. So we remain alive at all times. And very seldomly do we choose to contract, because where is the benefit of that? And so you can always be alive. You are always living and sentient, and the tribunal, you are never dead. Your legal person is dead and the legal realm is dead, yes? And the man has been hoodwinked into the Latin persona and personam. So the whole world is a stage. Let's put on our masks, everyone. Our legal mask, the legal personality. Remember 3 years ago when I first said, Mum, what's this and what's joinder and what's acquiescence and what's that? And you went, oh, legal personality. That's the dead.
Veil, yes.
Here's Dan and his data self. You must have seen
incorporation.
Yeah,
remember
the veil, that's a religious Catholic type ecclesiastical business dead. All courts are ecclesiastical. Churches, all rise. That's the dead. All rise. Come on, dead. No, we don't rise. You know, I'm not going to get into all of that. So that's how you work it out. We're always alive until you submit and lose your it, you know, and you don't reserve your rights and win the fight. So if every time you need to submit or sign, you're contracting. So when you sign, you might want to sign with out liability. There's an idea. And then you remain alive still. You remain, you know, you're always alive, but you don't get assumed under the legal system because you've signed, you've contracted.
Is it subjudice?
Subjugated, subrogation, subjugation.
I'm rusty now. I've retired 3 years ago and my brain's died, basically.
So I hope that made a little bit of clarity there for that.
Subjudice, I think.
The legal realm is dead.
I remember. Oh well.
Sorry,
such is life.
So basically, Mad Pieman saying the living man cannot be summoned to a court.
Yes, well done, 100%. Yes.
In a nutshell, well done there.
It's the all capital name. It's an invitation, a summons. Hang on, whoa, let's go again. Summons. What does a spirit do? You know, what does a witch doctor do in Trinidad or Tobago or Southern America or somewhere back in the day? They summon spirits, don't they? What have you done now with the dead? You've been summoned. So you can't summon a man because he's a living sentient being. You can summon the dead fiction and the birth certificate, the personality, the cognomen of Rome, the all capital surname, Crown Estate.
Yeah. And etymology late.
That's the YouTube user said that. So there's another question here, sister.
Look at the chat room and look up nimble horse with etymology origin late Middle English. There's a big sentence there.
I can see nimble horse, the purpose of history as I see it. This is the only way. There's quite a bit actually, but there's a lot. Etymology, original late Middle English from Old French etymology via Latin from Greek. Here we go. Etymologia. From etymologos, that logos, God, the word, that's come from many. Etymologos, logos is the light, the word, the giver. Student of etymology from etymon, neuter, singular of etymos, true. Very nice. Nimble horse, you are I like your dexterity.
It's good. Well, you wanted to have a bit of a chat with the chat room today.
That's what we're doing. Somebody called Taper 777 said something about a mortgage that I saw, saying if the mortgage was, let me go back up, but that was interesting. He also says, Dave, your mum is great, man. But it's written in ancient Latin. He's got it all. He hasn't hyphenated it, but he's got all capital Dominicus on us.
I've run out of wine. I have to disappear. I can never have an empty glass. Rule number 1.
Lots of the chat room saying mummy's great. Oh, wow. You've been a great debut. Scoop of the year, love, for me. Not for you. Wow.
God bless you, my angels.
I paid my mortgage off 13 years ago, 20 grand. Knowing what I know now, I created that money. Can I get it back? Well, I haven't done that myself, but in principle, you could lay claim. And if you could, in law, if you can prove who makes the claim must provide the burden of proof. So with that said, if you can, in a judicial arena, provide any proof to what we are articulating now, and you've got documentary evidence, or you do a DSAR, which would be a data subject access request, and under the superstition of the GDPR over the 1998 Data Protection Act, I think they are now currently free. And not the £10. The FOI was the free shot that got rejected most of the time. And then we paid £10 credit, you know, for the DSAR back in the day. But now that GDPR, I think you could do a DSAR and ask for also an internal audit. Then we'll go internal audit on them. That can't be refused, and get back to me after that. That's how you could claim your mortgage back. But who makes the claim, brother, must provide the burden.
You were kind of telling me that when you take a mortgage out, no money actually crosses hands, and they've got a deed on your property when they never actually gave you the money.
That's a little bit mixed up there, but when whoever signs the agreement is the joint settler or the settler, or the husband and wife would be classed as the joint settlers, because they are creating the money with the equitable asset, which is the joint signatures. Now, it's not a contract they've got before them, because they haven't had an involvement in that agreement text of the mortgage. You know, the particulars, the small print of the mortgage, the agreement that you sign. They didn't construct that, husband and wife. They were given it. So because they were given it, it's called a constructed agreement. And when you've got a constructed agreement presented before you, and it's about money, and it's you promising to pay the money back in the future with the interest, that agreement basically for the mortgage, you know what that means. And so when you sign that with the equitable assets, it appears, and it's Michael Obenesia, the great mortgage swindle. I don't claim to know everything. I'm no expert. I help out to share the knowledge. I've yet to watch that. But if you watch that as well and subsequent type documentaries, you'll find that intrinsic value associated with money, and what banks do is not so much money. We have cash, we have credit, we have currency, we have bonds, we have charges. You know, there's a lot going off here. When you think about money, mon, M-O-N, means singular, one, mon, and I, mon, I, money, one eye, the thing that we're warned about. Just want to drop it in there. So money that you and I believe is cash, you know, is not so much, it's the value factor that determines what it is. So you sign in that, you create an element of credit, right? Not so much money or cash or all of that side of the messiness. You create the credits. You give it to the bank because your signature is an equitable asset, and they take that from the bonding system and the mechanics of that finance. So you create the money on the, I'm not going to get into all of it now, but it's, you know, and that is given to the bank, and then the bank loan it back to you with the interest. And when they loan it back to you, there is an insurance policy, indemnification, there's special purpose vehicles, and then there's the notice of equitable interest, and also the power of attorney wrapped into all of that. And you go, thank you very much, and we'll pay it back, and it's forever then, you know, paying back something that you allegedly created, which draws upon creditor debtor technology, which draws upon the birth certificate, debtor creditor, and all of that, what we've brought to you previously, which is quite a head mess, to be fair. Wouldn't you say, Patricia?
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
Not really, but yeah, it is. When you first hear about it, you're like, you're on drugs, what you're smoking. No, banks wouldn't do that. But when you learn about the Smithsonian's, is it, and the Smiths, and how gold was stored, and how money, credit notes, and that originally started, and how intrinsic value it is applied, and you learn about the Gold Insolvency Acts, and we can back this up now, and it's like, hang on a minute, they're talking the truth. They're actually bang on. We're all bankrupt and we're all in debt. So why are we running around worrying that we can't pay bills? If we're all bankrupt, we're all in debt. And lest we not forget, on this day of Advent and so forth, and Yuletide or Christmas, Jesus, he died for man's debt. He didn't die for man's sin. He died for man's debt. So therefore, you know, I said before, this is why I'm saying it again, that Jesus died for our sins, and someone has corrected me, and I'm happy that they did. And I'm like, actually, yeah, you're right. I've seen that, and I researched it. He was crucified for man's debts, to pay man's debts, and he's got turned into sins. The same as that saying, the root of all evil, money is the root of all evil, yeah, is what they say, the monai. But it's the pursuit of monai that is the root of all evil. You can use money to your advantage, like in a trust situation that we'd like to set up and benefit all honourably with full disclosure as a family, as one, then that's a lot better than the current system that's going off, with you lot not even knowing about credit cards, debtor, creditor, drawer, mortgagee, mortgagor. Listen to the ending of the words now. Or E, trustee, Yeah, set law, and you got these, and there's clues in the language again, and you're like, oh, without even being taught, because I've learned a little bit, the rest just falls into place for me, and I'll share that with you to give you a little boost in the areas that you need. It's there. It's for you to see. It's not just random, but that's why words and language is the way it is as we know it.
Yeah, and how many people call on you for help, David?
Too many. That's why we've got the .com. I've had to turn the other phone off. I'm helping simultaneously 6 from the .com. 1 from YouTube is included in that 6. A lady doing representation that went to Nottingham Court to sort out a repossession foreclosure issue, and she's got a 3 months, to go back, and it's been adjourned in a de facto non-de-jure one, but albeit we'll sort that out. So there's a lot going off. I've helped a lady called Nonna Yomus from Tube again, talking to her about PCN, boats being in the wrong shipping lane, this kind of carry on. A Rastafari from YouTube called Rastar. And there's a lot, a guy from Sheffield called Darren who's got an appearance on the 4th somewhere, and it's like, wow, the machine never sleeps. We can't sleep. We can't rejoice and be happy because there's starving children and women on this planet still. And I'm, for one, I'm not happy about that, and don't feel that we are equally.
That's why it's so annoying that something like NASA takes $50-odd million a day. We've got our own space program here in the UK. They take that money when we could be helping the people.
Exactly, yeah, and it doesn't, where's that money really going? If there is what was it? Project Firmament, after Admiral T. Byrd went on Operation Over the Wall, High Jump, what was it? They had Operation Firmament, where Russia and America fired up in the 60s, late 60s. Allegedly, I wasn't born, I don't have evidence, but YouTube taught me that these 2 continents fired up for a long time, many rockets to find out if we could get through. So, this firmament business kind of messes things up, doesn't it?
Yeah, somebody else quite interesting to look at about all this, even if he's covering mud floods a lot, is Martin Leakey, because he's been looking at drawings on what the symbols mean. And they're often talking about electromagnetics. And on one of the hangouts we had with him, he said, well, if they can only go 8 miles down, they can only go 8 miles up.
Yeah,
so they're lying about how high the planes are in the sky. And I suppose if you look back to that time you're talking about, see how high those rockets or those bombs, wherever they were, could go.
Yeah. Does my head in. Not knowing is a crime to man, you see. The fact we don't know, and we haven't got a national, landmass organisation that is nothing, we need an alternative to legal, everybody, all right? This is what we're saying now, let alone submit your... and what those sayings I said there, we need an alternative, and the CSA are closing, and when a CSA, Citizens Advice Bureau, CAB, they're closing, and the only advice then is from where? Student unions.
Citizens Advice Bureau are closing.
There's a lot of them being made to shut down, and they're only full of like ex-solicitors and types like legal orientated that won't.
I know, it's not. Originally, you used to be able to just pop in and see them, or even just go in and make your appointment. Now you have to do everything on a phone. All these places, like even when you do a benefit or whatever, that number on a lot of people's phones costs you money to call a place that should be free.
Yeah, that's right. And there's another way of getting you to pay.
You've got to pay to speak to the bank. You've got to pay to speak to them. What is all that? They're charging you.
Or if you're on benefits and credits and universal whatever, they say you've got to go online and access stuff. But to go online takes a mobile, an account, credit, a connection, landline, internet, Wi-Fi. They say, oh, we'll go and use a friend's, or they go, so, no, hang on a minute. Why are we going around to use a friend's X, Y, and Z when I've got a national insurance number that's an indemnification number that I can put charges to and discharge charges to with autographs and thumbprints, and you can get it for me and charge this account? Because all that secret, we go running around on the public side doing all of this because they're like, well, when they find out, they'll come and tell us. And until we go and tell them, they're going to push us to the limit, because that's what they do. And when you actually get pushed so far, usually Anglos go out and do what Guy Fawkes did, or do what other I can't think of too many patriotic you know, overthrows of authority now, other than Guy Fawkes, and battles of past, you know. But I'm not trying to incite that. I'm just saying that now the alternative with this consciousness, indigo, age of Aquarius, you know, Bonacci, and
I see. That's why your channel's called Indiglow, because you're an indigo child.
Gosh, this is it. And now we're at the next level. The next quantum wave has been released, and we're waiting to see what the kickback is. And those that can take it up are finding that they have.
I do know all about indigo children. I mean, it's one of the things you look into, especially if you get to the spiritual side of things. You just do. You can always come across indigo children. Maybe that's what it is. We're all indigo children, the ones that have really woken up, because they were in that. They're sent with a different vibration. Indigo children. That's what it says.
I believe that there is a consciousness connection all the time, but we're not conscious of it. Hypocritical, I know. So our consciousnesses are connected to each other, and we'll call in my eyes, the creator is like a big plasma cloud over in a nebula somewhere far, far away. And that plasma cloud in the corner, all in the dark quiet, going out, going ha 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 to everything and everyone on this divine Greg Braden type consciousness matrix and what we know of. And then we are, you're right. And those of us that have enough crap in our lives, or get beaten down, bullied, victimized, and all of these negative things, and we go down and we have a cry and we get broken, and then we get back up. When we get back up, there's something cognitively that makes you fight rather than the flight mode and, you know, stay down, and you then get back up with an increased strength and vibration. That saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is because every time you have a battle in your life, as I see it, and you win that, or you fight against it and you win and you triumph, you get a little boost, and you get like a little time extend on an old arcade game. You go past the finish line with them and get more time, and so you get rewarded for it. And this system of ours that we're in is that we're all picking out our faults and our, you know, differences, when we have more in common than we could ever know, and we could understand a lot more if we gave each other more time, love and support. And this cloud nebula, creator, Lord, prime core directive, whatever you want to call it, because there is something of that effect here, is experiencing good and bad light, you know, in all of us through it. And what we allow through our free will happen. And these Masons and Bilderbergs and Rockefellers know these hermetic principles that I'm sorry to go random and deep, but those that know us will be able to follow. And the hermetic principles that ultimately govern above the religion, above the monetary complex, above the politics and that, because I don't do politics and I don't do religion anymore, because they're a waste of time. I do private, sovereign, governing law and equitable stuff, and we argue with that. So, you know, it's when man's free will, and it goes back to all the teachers of the free wheel, of the astro-theological, and some of the stuff that's coming out in a minute to do with how old the planet is and what we've done and who reigned for when and who Thoth was and what was before Kem and Thoth, Göbekli Tepe, and such things as what's in China and Africa, Michael Tellinger and Billy Carson. It's too much, and it's like, you can't deny it. You cannot deny that we are the ultimate power. And yeah, we might have got a weird history that we've been lied to about, but it's basically all there for you to find. It is, and you found a lot of it out and helped me, you and the family and the ones that you've had on. And the etymology with you know, Josh and Martin and that was, yeah, it's just another strength to the bow.
Oh, you've really helped us as well, and much appreciate all the time and effort that you spend coming on our channel trying to help everyone.
And that's right, it is time. Sorry, thank you for that. I'll say thank you first, and yeah, I'm humbled by that, but it is sacrifice and it is time and effort that is put there. You know, Anne-Marie, you could do with me being around a bit more, but I said, you know, we've got a mission to do, and I manage my time effectively, which is why we're closing the Facebook family trust down on the Facebook domain. And also because it's not a nice domain in my eye, and why we're moving into the private. So now, man, our brothers and sisters and family need somebody to try and lead them in a way. I'm not a leader. I wasn't born a leader. In fact, I'm an idiot. But, you know, and that hasn't been planned. It's not meant to happen. It wasn't perceived in my eye at all ever. And I was told as a child I did some amount to nothing and I'm a retard. So this now needs somebody and a few of us, Andy Sovereign Smith, and there's a few more, you guys, not guys, you brothers and sisters, and a few more channels, and lifting the veil. Big love to that, man, you know, to step forward and carry on doing what we're doing, and so some element then be natural, you know, in the way of the relativity, the appearance, the environment. Our you know, environmental area is natural and wholesome, and we go back to the source code, the prime directive, and we bring as many with us as we can, because like in Greece, where they sit there having a fag and they've been told they can't smoke in the bars and clubs, it's the bar owner and he's having just a drink or whatever, and it's all open and there's no windows because it's a hot, you know, 40-degree environment. So the police come and they'll be like, oh, no problem, everything's good. But yet they're all smoking inside against the law. Well, is it really? You know, and the police know that they have discretion. So then that little island, what's their priority of 100 police to 10,000 tourists? Do you really think they need to spend the time writing tickets out for club? And I'm not being horrible to you, I'm just saying. So they don't, and they let that ride, because on the grand scheme of things, and that's where we need to start looking at things now. Your house, your property, your assets, your van, even to your children, that should have been first. Your children are your biggest asset. When we're looking at forced adoptions,
yeah, actually, when you explained that to us, I was a bit shocked that you turned around. The first thing you said was, your children are your property.
Assets. That's assets. Property management is asset management. Asset management is, oh, Karen, your daughter Sarah, she's a real asset to you. When I saw you the other day with her, she was, you know, real spitting image of you, and I'll tell you now, she'll be an asset to you. So that's a common term of phrase, because as we say, commercial language is in our babble to deceive us and for cognitive dissonance. You know, therapist, you know, there you go, the rapist, and how it's put over time. It's truly amazing. Our brains are extremely complex, right? And you can retrain your brain. But what they've done, they've programmed us so well over the time and the years, and in every area, that we've not been able to fight it. It's like being drugged all your life and not knowing you've been drugged. And now you're slowly taking that needle out, and it's been out a week and you're feeling the effects, and you're like, hang on a minute, I don't know whether I like this or whether I want that drug again. It's not nice at all. It's not fair. We don't enjoy what we do, because everyone that comes to us is under attack, vulnerable, upset, needy, at a court judicial stage, and there's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations, and we need help, and we need others to take this forward with us. You know, we're not trying to run it ourselves. There's no ego, but there is a .com, and there is Patreon I've done, and there is a dedicated YouTube channel, SPL's Pro, amongst indies. So we can all link up and chat and do whatever in the next year. We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot of ideas, and you can email me at david@splspro.com, and I'll get back to you within 2 weeks on average.
We've been going for nearly 2 hours. Do you think that's enough for today?
Yeah, any questions or any more last minute? If anybody wanted to ask a question and we've missed it, get it in now, and we'll quickly cover it if you want, and we'll cut it short.
Your mum there and your family. Oh, Trisha's got one for you. There you go.
Oh, wow. This is going to be, yeah, you've just reminded me. I'd kind of put that out of my mind a bit, but we're honest. You get full disclosure. That's my mum. That's who, you know, born me, and that's lovely of her to come up and to just show. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Oh. Patricia, Patricia's got something to say. Go on, Patricia.
Hang on, sorry. Just lighting my cigarette. Yeah, you know, if you have a personal loan and after, say, well, the question is there sort of a timeline that they can't ask for you to have that money back?
Check out statute barred. It's called statute barred. So when it's after 6 years on average, I believe, don't quote me, I want you to check it out, sister, but look at statute limitations, statute barred debts. And, you know, I like to make, a good teacher will always make the student work. And when you work for it, you remember it. So you get any problems, you know where I am to ask me, and check out limitations of debt, statute barred. Statute limitations, something like that, and you'll find out the CPR rulings of it.
Right, okay, thank you.
And there is, so yes, the answer is yes, and that's where it lies. It's generally 6 years, but there are some exceptions to that, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. I've really enjoyed listening to you, by the way.
I love it. I love you guys. Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of you and your subscribers and the family. Great show, great hosts and chat. Happy New Year, everybody from Super Leeds.
Hey, so I just had to go and drop the dog out into the kitchen because, yeah, she probably wants to go out, but I didn't have enough time for that, so I just dumped her in the kitchen.
Can you ask David? Go on, sorry.
I'm just saying, Super Leeds. That's where I was born. Leeds. I was born in Leeds, so yeah, cool.
Hey, Leeds, a lot of Masonic buildings. Like a lot of Masonic buildings in Leeds. I'm not making a claim, but I went round there DJing a few times and shopping, and I noticed a few little symbols. All right, Leeds, look up Leeds. Look at your buildings in the city centres and around and about, not just the grand Masonic lodges. Oh, I look for the Leeds Masonic Lodge. Look where that is. And there's a lot. Sorry, I am a Mason, son of May. That's my connection. So I do interest in these. I know you have. And also it says, can you ask David? There was a question there. It's gone now. I think they've edited it. Clive Albert, anything registered is handling over your property to whomever you register it to. Record, not register. Right, no. When you register, you are changing the trust correction. So anybody who holds legal title cannot be entitled to equitable title. All right, because you can't be trustee and settlor. Trustee, beneficiary, settlor. There's different positions in the trust. So where you've said register, handling over your property, you're not handling. So when your mum and dad registered to the bondsman, the general register at the office, the general registry office, and the bondsman accepts the claim of right, he's registering the event there, and he's making a record in a book, a log entry in that book to say that the mum and dad are present on that day and are registering the child, the asset, property with the monarchy, the state, the bondsman. Now that bondsman takes the property and he accepts a allodial title. That's the king position, settlor. Now he's got the title. That's a title transformation. So it's not so much the registration is handing over your property. It's the title that changes. You are correct in a way, but let me explain. And so then you become legal trustee of the property, legally, like the V5 registration and the registration of your blood, your asset, the same thing. You're now legally responsible for them and liable. And then the title of ownership, because you and the wife had intercourse and she carried it around for 9 months and born it and has ultimate rights. The mum is the vessel, the ship, and she gives birth to the cargo under the UCC integration. Sorry, but that's the way they see it. I'm not saying it's right. So that's how the ship gives birth to the product. The product gets registered, which is the asset to you, product to them. They claim that, give you the legal title. They've got the other title, same as V5. You've got the allodial title, then you get the paper, you put all the details on of you and sign it with equitable signature, because it's not your asset, because you're not using it with your thumbprints. You are going, it's okay, and giving them the authority from the fiction. The dead one, the living one is used to mediate. So enough of using me to mediate as a dead man. That's not happening, you see. So the transfer of titles happens there, and that is register, registrar, register, again with the beginning of words. Look at all of them, use your etymology, have a look at Reggie and Regina. I nearly said it again. Regina Elizabeth, right? The monarchy. Reggie, registration comes from, ultimately the top kingpin word would be Regina, and the monarchy and the archons that have orchestrated this with their arcs and monarchs. And wow, yeah, lifting the veil. I can't say, we need lifting the veil somehow. I need to get hold of him. But archons, orchestrating, archetypes, architect, matrix, architect's design, it's all in there, and that's how they've done this. So that's your register. Record is to give to the sea. So when you record something, it's an admiralty terminology. When you register, it's given to the monarchy and the land and the state. There you go. Check out that. Don't take my word for it, please. I accept no liability, brothers and sisters.
Anything
Anything else?
Questions? Anything else you want to say, David?
No, I'm going to have a hangout with my mum privately that will be planned and not random like that. So I'm glad that you received her well, and that was a surprise. It's a true honour to have, you know, the blessing of my mum in some ways after her 20 years at Derby Uni and what she did and what she knows. And she helps me out with the ADR, alternative dispute resolution. So to those low lives, I've had to kind of do this. I told my mum we were going to do a hangout and she was prepared for one, but she's kind of like surprised me, as you've seen. But there are claims being made about me stealing work, copying work, and X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to deal with them. Many and various claims of character, slander, libel, defamation, defamatory. And I want to defend the way that you can see me. We've done this today. So you can see that on the spot, on the fly, with no script or anything. I'm in a room that's got no other screens or anything helping me out, you know, and my mum has given me help in some way, but she didn't know what I was on with when I'd said acquiescence, estoppel, joinder, straw man. She knew nothing. The system doesn't educate the ones that she was at Derby Uni for, you know, for all that time. She was one of the kingpins, and they didn't teach her any of this. This equitable side of life is hidden even from the university. The dean at the top knows about it because he'll be in the lodge at the weekend when they have the meetings. Shh. So it's all controlled and contrived. And I just give thanks and blessings for what's happened all this year. You know, it's New Year's Day soon. And, you know, we're going to have a hangout about all of this privately, well, publicly, but later. And it's going to be structured so I can outline a bit more about what we're doing and give the channel, telling your subscribers that Indy will be going live in the next 48 hours again, and we'll do something similar as well.
Cool. Indigo channel, you mean?
This, am I on as Indy now? I am, aren't I? Yeah. Indigo child channel. I'll go
well,
live.
As ever, thank you so much for all that you've said today, and you know that I love you, David. And yeah. Oh, I love Patricia as well. She's sitting there. Thank you so much, everybody in the chat room. This is our last hangout of 2018.
What a hangout. Whoa, I didn't know that. Okay, okay.
We are back. The next day we're back is the date. Is it the 2nd? Wednesday the 2nd with our Patricia. Patricia, what are you doing? She hasn't gone. Patricia!
There's you saying she's going to be available as well, eh?
She might have just gone and got a drink or something. Patricia is hosting our quiz on Wednesday, and that's just a fun night, all right?
I'm here. I couldn't get to my little thing. Sorry.
Yeah, what are you doing on Wednesday?
I'm filming myself pole dancing.
Oh my goodness, Patricia.
What?
No, only joking. Only joking. I'm hosting the quiz. I can't wait. I love doing the quiz. My little niche.
Anyway, it's the least we can do for the amount of hours you sit on our hangouts listening. Patricia, what's the quiz going to be about?
Music.
A music quiz. It's just a fun night. It's not actually a flat earth night, maybe, but we're all flat earthers, so it's still a flat earth night. But it's people write in the chat room, this isn't about flat earth. Oh my goodness. We've got about 900 and something hangouts posts, and there's about 3 of them. There was a astrology night, and we've done 2 quizzes. The rest are all flat earth. Anyway, go, Patricia.
Sorry.
Go.
It's all about us coming together.
Yes.
Yeah, and like today,
David just smacked me in the face then.
Today has been, even though David loves it and it's his niche and his subject, it's still a very deep subject, isn't it, David? The law and sovereign, you know, and as much as we absolutely appreciate everything you do, Patricia's night is a completely different night, which we've got to be different as well, haven't we? But
when is this? When repeat, because I forgot when you said Wednesday, so I want to watch this. I want to attend. I am Dynamic Dave. I'm going to bring Dynamic Dave to the quiz.
It's Wednesday the 2nd of December. Oh, January. Whoops, 2019. Patricia's hosting this quiz. So all you need to do is write your answers in the chat room, and it's just a fun night.
After my first day back in voluntary servitude, that will be a welcome. Yeah, I will see. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, as long as Patricia doesn't pick the hardest ones, because some people have said they are the hardest quiz questions ever. Patricia,
I don't write the questions. I just copy them off somebody's page. But I'm going to, because I've got a greatest hits book. If I can find it somewhere in my packed up bedroom, I'm going to try and grab that out, and I'm going to do maybe a few questions of my own. And I haven't actually looked for any questions yet, so.
And just to say what things are like, I always have to do this because I did a quiz and I didn't know this, but often when you don't know something and you're given the answer, you know, you never forget it. What's a herd of donkeys called? Does anybody know what a herd of donkeys is called?
I've got it etched on my brain, Karen.
I know you have. Sorry, Patricia.
It's all right. I'll let you off.
Any idea? It's called a baron. A baron of donkeys. You'll never forget that. Yes, Mr. Mensa put arse. And arse is a baron. I mean, I didn't even know that, but then you never forget. But on that note, it's a very merry Flatmas New Year to everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much for supporting our group and being here and being on our hangouts. Thank you to all the guests we've had, and much love to David and Patricia chat room. See you next year.
Arigato.
Love you all.
Much love.